Tim, what the hell happened to the animation budget?
I spent that shit on a Hellcat.
I guess I have to talk about a really great show. Subscribe. I absolutely love superheroes, especially when they're kinda realistic and show the good and the ugly sides of being a hero. So of course I love Invincible. If you don't know, Invincible is an Amazon Prime show starring your favorite Steven Yeun. This show is amazing, even if it spends most of its budget on voice actors. It has some great range, and it's really refreshing to see these different shades of saving the world. If you don't know, Invincible was made by the same guy who made The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman. And right now they just released the last episode of season 4. And it's absolutely amazing. And I just really need to talk about it. Episode 1 is the best way to introduce this season. The main idea of this episode is Mark struggling mentally and being more open about killing people, even if they aren't the biggest of threats. This episode is also great in showing the different power dynamics that collide in the Guardians, and generally how overworked everyone is, especially Mark and Oliver, and of course fleshing out Eve and her relationship with Mark. The plot of this episode is that Mark is still recovering from the fight with Conquest from the last season. Eventually he runs into some type of dino guy that is able to break Mark's metal cast, which makes him confident because it proves he's physically healed. But quickly we'll see how he's still kinda mentally fucked up, mirroring a scene with Conquest after the dino guy switches back to human and is defenseless. And even though he can't do anything, Mark still holds him by the throat, inches from killing him before the Guardians show up. And then we switch to Eve and Mark sharing dinner with Eve's family, and then we get this weird scene of Mark and Eve's dad alone. However, it's much better than what happened in the comics, but yeah. Also, we see more of Eve's powers failing, which is a pretty cool mystery that I couldn't have guessed the answer to. But this episode ends with the world being in threat due to these Martian sequids, which leads to Mark actually killing someone, which it's not like Conquest or Armstrong. This man is dead, fully gone. All in all, this episode is great, and it's an amazing way to start the season. So I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. The last episode was all about Mark, and this episode is all about Nolan and Alan. This episode expands Nolan's character so much, showing a more remorseful and human side of him. His arc of trying to prove himself by actively helping to find a way to kill off his own people shows a massive change. The beginning of this episode also shows the massive contrast between Nolan when he was young and the Nolan we know now. The episode starts off with a flashback to Nolan being a teenager entering adulthood and the brutality of it. We see how ruthless the Viltrumites are to their young. And it's also crazy how similar Mark and teenage Nolan look. But anyways, the episode then shows us something falling from space, releasing the Scourge virus. A virus so deadly and dangerous it kills out majority of the Viltrumites population. So many bodies they form a massive ring around the planet. This beginning scene is amazing, and it shows more about this tragic world and actually makes me kind of feel bad for Viltrum, because for the first time it actually seems like they are worried and trying to take care of each other. The rest of this episode is a bunch of moments of Nolan taking Alan to different places that can hurt or kill the Viltrumites, and then switching to Alan and his girlfriend being a bit loud for Nolan to be able to sleep. This episode's really fun. I love seeing and learning more and more things about Viltrum, and I love seeing Nolan's character arc. For the most part, this was a very funny episode. The only thing though is the joke kind of repeats a bit. And yeah, they go to planet finding different weaknesses, but that's kind of it. So not much happens. So I'd give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. This episode starts back with the mob, and specifically Titan being forced to kinda join back to be safe, because if you remember, this old fuck who got shot is actually alive and kinda starts fucking with Titan's family again. Then we focus on Mark being ashamed and feared by the Guardian because of Mark killing the man to stop the Martian invasion. The whole event sparks a big debate if Mark should have waited or not, even though the whole world was in danger.
If he had just waited another few seconds.
Invincible did the right thing.
You can't believe that.
Where are we at if he didn't kill Russ? The dome fails, Sequas take the planet, and then we fight for what? Years to take it back? If we even could? How many other people would die if that happened?
The dome would have held.
Even you don't know that.
It's done, okay? And we all have to live with it. So let's just hit the showers and be happy we never have to see another sequid ever again.
But with Mark being busy, Oliver takes a job that Mark should have taken. We learn that this job is actually for Titan, and the idea is to go mess with the old dragon guy for messing with Titan's family. However, this goes bad fast. Mark is actively getting his ass kicked by some aliens, and Robot Monster Girl gets stuck on their home planet. And they see this massive army they're trying to build to attack Earth. But eventually, Mark gets free and rushes over to help Oliver beat the dragon a bit, and then absolutely fucks up Titan for endangering Oliver. And the biggest plot twist of this episode is that we learn that Eve is fucking pregnant. This episode is pretty good, but it's, nothing too special. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. This episode is really strange. So Mark goes to hell to help Satan take back hell from these very strong hell creatures. This episode is also another one of those episodes that kind of feels like filler. I mean, it's funny. It has a lot of good moments and themes, and I love learning more about Damien Darkblood. He's a really cool character, and we see so much more of Eve talking about her pregnancy to Will, which, the only fucked up part is they replaced Will's voice actor. Anyways, Mark gets a pretty good prep talk from Damien Darkblood, and he starts to feel like a hero again, even though he has killed. And Mark finally dons his classic yellow and blue costume. And we get the scene of Mark talking to Eve about going to literal hell. And Eve is about to tell Mark she is pregnant, but before she can speak to him, Alan and Nolan show up in front of them. And honestly, I hate that. I hate when shows draw out the drama like this. I don't know, me personally, I would have loved to see Mark juggle that and the war. This episode is okay, but it really does feel like filler, and not anything crazy happens. So honestly, I'd give it a 5 out of 10. Holy shit, this episode is amazing. We have so many things going on in this episode. First, we have Nolan trying to reconnect with Debbie, which goes as well as it could.
You know what? I missed you. But you killed the man I loved. You killed him.
Debbie.
I loved you.
And the scene is so amazing and terribly sad because we want him to have his old life back. But how could he after he did all of those unspeakable and unforgivable things? And then Nolan has a beer with Art, which shows a moment of true human connection. And then back to showing how Nolan's actions can't be forgiven when Art says he only makes costumes for heroes. The look on Nolan's face is absolutely tragic. And the father-son relationship that Oliver and Nolan have is a little frustrating because they won't talk to each other, but it kind of makes sense. Oliver thinks Nolan doesn't care for him since he didn't visit.
Warning. This is not a drill. Several unidentified objects have been spotted in local areas. Many have reported hearing voices from friends and loved ones who were not there. Stay indoors at all times. No matter what you hear or see, remain silent. Don't make contact. Do not respond to the voices. Everything you may or may not see and hear are all fake. Local governments report a massive oil leak causing audible and visual hallucinations. There is nothing to fear. For your own safety, avoid outside contact as much as possible. Many areas infected are Walnut Creek, California, and DC. If you notice anyone acting strangely, they are too far gone. This oil leak impacts many areas of the brain, causing permanent damage with long-term exposure to the toxic air. Stay safe, stay inside, and never respond to the voices.
Subject 1. Total pulmonary failure, jugular vein lacerated, severe and complete organ decay inconsistent with estimated time of death, multiple cranial fragments missing, a black oil-like substance coats the interior of several major organs, eyes heavily bloodshot, extensive vascular rupture observed throughout the body, with several fingernails missing, fractured. The subject has been deceased no longer than 13 hours based on decomposition. Subject 2. Spinal column elongated beyond normal human proportions, multiple cuts and bruising surrounding the appendix, severe bloating present in the lower intestine, right lung, stomach, left kidney, liver, and central proportion of the brain destroyed. A black oil substance coats the inner dermal layer. The subject has been deceased for approximately 36 hours based on decomposition, and subject 3 missing.
And Nolan doesn't want him to be around him because he doesn't want to fuck up Oliver like he did with Mark. Anyways, so Mark and Oliver both go to space with Nolan and Alan to fight the final war with the Viltrumite. And for the first time in 20 years, Earth is Viltrumite free.
What is it, sir?
It's the first time this planet's been Viltrumite free in over 20 years.
Is that a good thing? Or a bad thing?
Guess we'll find out. Godspeed, boys.
Nolan has some flashbacks with Debbie, and Oliver and Zoe are getting along well, and everything seems to go pretty smoothly. Until the ship gets damaged and forces a split, leaving Alan, Oliver, Mark, Nolan, and Zoe completely stranded. Then the first fight with Viltrum happens. Everyone tries to hold their own against the Viltrumites. This is when Mark learns that Conquest is actually alive, and they start to have this massive rematch. Oliver, being cocky, gets his ass, kicked, and to the point where he needs air, so he flies to a nearby planet. But Conquest decides to follow him, taking the sun with him too. Mark steps in to make sure Oliver is safe, but they have this big spar until Mark chooses to choke Conquest as long as he can. And then we get one of the most disturbing and brutal scenes. Conquest starts digging through Mark's chest to find his heart, and there's no sounds, no music. The only sound is Mark's groans of pain and the sloshing of his organ. It's truly uncomfortable. This episode gets a 10 out of 10. Episode 6 is absolutely mind-blowing. This is when the war actually starts. You see Alan and all of them trying their best to hold off the Viltrumites, while still wondering what happened to Mark, Oliver, and Nolan. And for the most part, we see them stuck on this dead planet of mostly rock. This place seems almost inhabitable, especially for someone who has a massive hole in their stomach and, is unconscious. Luckily, this planet's main life form are these giant bug-like creatures that Oliver and Nolan hunt and steal the eggs from to make Mark stronger. And at first, Oliver is really not happy with Nolan, but the months of them surviving on this planet, they slowly become closer and closer. Oliver confesses to wanting to fuck a lobster, but anyways, it's truly a nice scene of Nolan trying to win over his son and redeem himself. But Mark finally wakes up, and once he is sure everyone's okay, they finally show up on the main planet. And good time, because Viltrum decides to attack the home planet, which went as well as you would think. I mean, sure, a lot of people did die, but overall, the Viltrumites were truly humiliated and pushed back and left open. And finally finding out who the mole was so refreshing and great. I love this episode. I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. Listen, this video is getting a bit long, and it's been 2 months since I've uploaded, so I'm gonna make this quick. Everyone finds the Viltrumites, they start fighting, Nolan gets punched down to the planet, Nolan speaks with Thrag, and Oliver nearly gets killed. Our heroes blow up the planet, which looks super pretty, and Thrag gets, pissed, kills this one guy, but, spares everyone else, and then fucks off. Everyone gets saved, and now everyone is kind of confused on where they went, until Mark realizes they probably went to Earth. This episode is amazing. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. This episode is completely different from what I expected it to be. So everyone arrives on Earth and, Mark is being scared out of his mind, and he's shocked to see, nothing actually happened. There's no sign of the Viltrumites whatsoever. Everyone thinks they just haven't arrived yet, and so we get some beautiful scenes of Mark and Eve being a couple and speaking with each other. We learn that Eve decided to get an abortion because she didn't know if Mark was alive or not. But while this is happening, happening, Mark keeps getting these visions of what he thinks is going to happen because of how powerful Thrag is. And it gets to the point where he goes outside to take a breath and gets another vision of Thrag. And he goes to go punch him, but this time he's actually there. Thrag leaves Mark with an ultimatum: leave the Viltrumites alone on Earth and they'll do nothing but, reproduce, or Thrag will destroy Earth. So you kinda can guess what Mark picked. This episode is great, but I do feel like it kinda dragged out a bit, so I'd give it an 8 out of 10. All in all, this season was amazing. Even with its lower episodes, it still is awesome. This show is constantly improving the quality, the animation, and the story. It's all an improvement from the last season. And let me know in the comments, what is your favorite episode? But yeah, I know how late this video is, and I'm hoping to try to make some more videos and stuff sooner. You know how it is. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, and then I'll see you in the next one. Bye!